Hey, how's it going? My name's Elias Medina. Actually, it's on first class Elias Medina. You can call me Eli. Well, I'm going to attempt to accomplish this task I was given by the class, by the instructor for week one, which is an autobiography of myself. So hopefully this fulfills the requirement. I was born and raised in East LA. Joined the Army when I was 17 years old. Left. I was gone for about 10 years. I was stationed in Germany, Korea, mostly in the South and the East Coast. After 10 years of service, I got out and became a civilian and started working in the manufacturing field. I started as a MIG welder, worked my way up to maintenance mechanic, and eventually became a shift supervisor. On around that time, I was living in Kentucky. I met my first wife, had a good life, doing pretty good, making pretty good money. Eventually, we ended up moving to California. I started working for a company called Procter& and Gamble, making pretty good money. But around that time, started having problems. Me and my wife got divorced. During that time, I felt that I still needed the military. I kind of got used to it after doing it for 10 years, so I went into the National Guard, which is the Army. Um, Started doing that 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year. Worked out pretty good, still maintaining my position at Procter& and Gamble. And all of a sudden, the war started, and I got mobilized. One of my first tasks was to go to Louisiana in 2005, where I participated in rescue and recovery of Hurricane Katrina. After it went through and devastated New Orleans, I was one of the guys who had to go over there and recover bodies and do patrol the streets and then help them with rescue and reconstruction. Once I did that, I was at mobilized, actually remained in mobilized position, and then they sent me to Iraq. At that time, I ended up being a platoon sergeant. I was stationed in southern Iraq, Basra, about 2006, right about the time when President Bush had the surge. Ended up staying there over 15 months. Pretty hectic mission, pretty intense, a lot of combat patrols. My job was a convoy escorts. Got into it with the insurgents, but overall it was a pretty good mission. A couple of soldiers got injured, but overall it was a very successful mission. Came back to the States in 2007, and I remained on active duty. I decided to stay in the Army. I did it so good. I was successful in Iraq, so why not stay in the Army? Lo and behold, as soon as I volunteered to stay active duty, they sent me again to Iraq, and this time I did detainee operations. I worked in the theater internment facility in Camp Bucca, one of the largest internment facilities in Iraq. This after Abu Ghraib. It was a pretty interesting mission. I was like correction officers, army type thing like that. Did a couple patrols too. And at the end of that mission, lasted about a year, I came back to the United States and became instructor based on my experience and the awards I got and the missions I did. I was an instructor at stationed at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and then I was stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia. And basically, my job was to train National Guard Reserve going overseas, and tactics and techniques, how to survive the modern battlefield in Operation Iraqi Freedom. Around that time, my unit got deployed, and we ended up going to Afghanistan. So that was my third deployment. I want to say that Afghanistan was a little bit more harder. Beautiful country, nice country, but it was more intense. It seems like we were constantly fighting there. I was an infantry platoon sergeant. We were doing combat patrol. I was responsible for the platoon, 35-man platoon, the maintenance, the discipline, the training, the leading these soldiers out there in combat. So overall success, a hard mission, but successful mission. And then I came back to the States. Ended up being stationed in Fort Bliss, Texas. On or around that time, I already had went through a divorce once, got married again in between deployments. Younger girl, didn't work out, so that was my second marriage. On or about that time, I ended up in about 2010. I ended up in Fort Bliss, Texas, and I met my third wife, which we're still together. I ended up buying a house, moving in together, and again, there at Fort Bliss, I was an instructor, and it was pretty good. I was used to speaking to in a public forum, giving briefings, teaching the soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen. People are going overseas, training them on the tactic techniques about the deployments. Around that time, I already had accumulated enough time to retire from the Army. I already had over 20 years of service after the deployments and my first 10 years in the Army. I was already authorized. I was already qualified to retire, but I had to stay there 2 more years. But when I extended, re-enlisted for 2 more years, they ended up sending me to Fort Irwin, California, and that's where I'm at right now. I am an operations sergeant for the National Training Center here in Fort Irwin, California, the premier desert training environment for the U.S. Army Forces. We train over 50,000 soldiers here a year. We're located between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, out here in the middle of the desert. Pretty good training, pretty good environment. It is harsh, it's hard. And again, I'm here alone because my family's back home in El Paso, Texas. I do plan to retire. I already put in my packet. I was approved. My retirement was approved for May 2015. And that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to finish up my degree. I was in manufacturing before, and that's what I want to get back into. But I found out in order to be a supervisor or any type of manager or in management, you need a degree. I figured that associates in business management, based on my counseling I got for preparing to get out the Army, it's one of the requirements I would need. So that's why I'm taking this course, and also this class is a requirement. As far as public speaking, I'm pretty good with it. I have been an instructor. I'm not scared to talk to a camera. I'm not scared to talk to in a public forum. I train anywhere from 5 soldiers to 100 soldiers. One thing about it is that when the military we're harsh or stern, with civilian world, you got to be a little bit more relaxed, be more political, I guess you want to say. And I think I'm willing to do that. It's a learning experience. So far from what I see in the class, it looks pretty interesting. What I'm doing right now is pretty interesting. Matter of fact, I had to buy a webcam just to fulfill the requirement. But hopefully I'll be able to use it more and more throughout the course. Looking forward to it. Any comments, I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'm going to learn a lot in this course. Good to meet you. And appreciate any comments. And see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.